Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're kicking off a new project where we're building an instant messaging app inspired by something like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. The goal here is to show how a complex application like an instant messenger can be built one step at a time. Within this very first video in this series, we will actually be showing you how to design the backend of the system. We'll start by laying out the functional requirements, understanding what the app needs and what's considered out of scope. Next, we will move into designing the backend architecture as well as the database structure, focusing on real-time messaging, notifications, and data storage. Finally, we'll wrap things up by showing you the UI that we will be building using Flutter within the next video. As always, this is not a step-by-step tutorial, but rather we will be talking through what is needed to build the system, so let's get started. As usual, I've pulled up Scalable here at my computer so that we can start fleshing out the system requirements and then get into the system design. So let me jump into Scalable, flesh it out real quick, and we'll talk about the system requirements. Alright, so now that I have fleshed out the system requirements, let's go over them. So first of all, important for an instant messaging app like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger is to create a new chat. These can be peer-to-peer chats, meaning one-to-one, or they can be group chats. This is the core of the application. We need a chat room to actually be starting our conversations and sending messages back and forth. That means that chat messages can contain text, media, or voice messages between users, and with media I mean something like images or videos, essentially something like that. Then users can have multiple devices that they're logged on, so maybe their phone, their tablet, their computer, something, multiple devices, even a watch could count, so that users can be notified. Talking about notification, of course, we want users to receive notification on all of their devices when they are offline. This helps us in one sense that we don't have to worry about primary devices or figuring out what type of device it is, but rather we can send out a push notification to all users or to the user to all devices that they're logged into. Similarly, users will not receive an extra push notification if they are actively using the service, and instead they should see the message right away. So that brings me to the out-of-scope items. One of them is to edit text messages after they have been sent. Yes, this is something that has been added to newer applications. However, we will consider that out of scope. Similarly, deleting a message is also considered out of scope. End-to-end encryption might be important or something that you actually want to implement in a chat service. However, I will consider that also out of scope, as well as location sharing or any phone or video calls between users. So now that we have fleshed out the system requirements, understand what is out of scope, let me take some time to flesh out the system, what it looks like, and then we'll step through it. Alright, considering the functional requirements, I went ahead and fleshed out the system, what it might look like, and what components interact with each other. So taking a look out here, of course, we have the user that would come in through a load balancer, especially if it's a larger system, so that not everyone connects to the same service, and we have multiple up. Then within that chat service, it's really responsible for creating that chat room as well as handling the messaging conversation content. That means it will be the one storing it towards our chat DB, which consists of, like, for a chat room, simply ID, it might have a name, the admins, and a list of users that are within the chat. Then from a message perspective, of course, it would contain the ID, the sender ID, the conversation ID, and with conversation I mean this chat room, so that we can connect the conversations together, know where they go. It might have text content, it might have media storage within, let's say, a bucket. So we could say, we create a media storage out here. And that could be any like voice conversations, images, videos, anything really, as long as we store it within like something like an S3 bucket if we use Amazon. Similarly, we might want to have the sent date so that we know when the message was sent and we could put it in chronological order, as well as whether or not a message was read, especially on one-to-one chats or peer-to-peer chats. So once we know how the data is stored, we need to worry about the notification piece. How are we going to handle notifying users that are currently offline? Really, this is a pub-sub model if we think about it. We have one subscriber, those being our receivers, and we have a publisher being the sender. So if we consider this being the publisher, we already talked about they come in through load balancer, interact with the chat service. Chat service will take the message, store it within the database for historical content purposes, but it also will go ahead and queue up the message and send it to the notification service. Notifications may not have to go out the very minute or second rather, but they should go out rather quickly. So if we think about it, chat service is its own content that can pull from the queue. Maybe we have a couple of those available and then distribute it to the user's devices. Looking up who is actually currently within the chat and then sending it over to them. So that would then go back to the receiver. To interact within the chat services and back and forth, it might make sense to use something like WebSockets for a connection basis, but that's also just one consideration to keep in mind. So I think this, at a high level, we have what we need. So let's take a quick peek at what the actual design looks like, and I've pulled that up on a different screen, different browser. So let me bring this in real quick. And if you are familiar with something like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, or even like your Messages app on the phone, this should seem rather familiar. You can see here we have a list of open chats. We might have some popular users up here. I know this listed as stories, but stories is not part of our current implementation. So it could be maybe some users that you interact with that you pinned at the top, as well as chats. If we take a quick peek at some other user items design here, we can see that here we go. We have like something like a message app where we can see the messages someone sent, as well as the messages I sent, whether or not it was delivered, who read it. We are not going to support this reply implementation, but rather these two screens that I have shared. You can see it's still a little bit here on the left. If we recall, we have a bunch of users, chat conversations basically, as well as the users, popular users on top. And then we're going to implement this chat room itself within the next video. And that wraps up the system design of our instant messaging app. We have talked through the system requirements, we have flushed out the system design, and laid the ground for real-time messaging. In the next video, we will be bringing the design to life using Flutter as we get to build out the user interface. As such, if you enjoy these breakdowns, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow along and see how this project evolves. As always, if you have any ideas, suggestions, or if you want me to build your project, leave a comment below. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.